I had a couple of comments. Where one was just a spelling thing. And I asked a question more for my edification than anything else. The reference to the interstate office facility down there. It said that it was the center was part of the state historic registry. And I'm just, is it the whole center or is it just that one building?
Just the one building.
Okay, I didn't know if that needed to be corrected in there. I just made a note.
Sorry, we've had a massive fruit fly.
Yes. All of us helped me.
We took their compost bin away, and now they're coming in here. 'Cause I think the plants are in here. I don't even know. It's
You shouldn't have put the limes in the gin and tonic. Then you wouldn't have.
But most people there after.
Get you every time.
Yeah, it's just that building.
Okay. The second half of the minutes did have a number. I did not fix them. The things they're mostly highlighted is unless someone else has fixed them.
Yeah.
The spellings and.
My comment was more that in the second half of the minutes, there were like a lot of sort of jumps in logic, like you didn't even know what things were being referenced, and trying to think of an example.
There's a little bit scrambled. Systems. I was ready to jump in and try to fix it. And nothing's wrong that I could see.
Okay.
I mean, we could have a look over and just kind of go through it and make sure how important it is. Makes sense. Yeah. I thought, I mean, parts of it they were very concise and accurate.
Some we came across more as notes than as full sentence. Kind of
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is like then they were just like sequential notes, even though there were gaps in the conversation, and so like it was hard to follow what the reference was. And I always try to think, okay, 5 years from now, if we're looking back at this,
It was like random thoughts about capital stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was more like notes about that. I didn't feel anything was wrong, so I didn't try to fix.
Yeah, the grammar is a little.
See, are you fixing it live?
No.
Fixing it live.
Someone's in there.
Yeah,
That was me.
I think I gave everybody edit privileges on the link, just figuring you guys.
Yeah, I mean, we can do a run through and just clean it up. For sure.
So do we want to push that to?
I'm fine to,
I thought you guys would have done it by the time.
No, I mean, I read them on my phone and it's hard, I can't edit them. And,
I'll move that we pass them, but that if there's a administrative cleanup is done later, we can review them again. But it'd be nice to not have to revisit them.
I would agree with that. I found that the paragraph that I was thinking about is under the town plan top 20 actions. It's the third paragraph down. There was a bid for Veterans Affairs facilities. Very arduous process. Site plan standards are ordered. And I was like,
We just need to lead in that there's some support for changes to the land use rules related to all of these things that are happening in the Route 2A corridor, and I was just trying to spin off all the things I could think of that were going on.
Right, fair.
Yeah.
It's just that looking back at it, it doesn't make any sense.
Got it. Doesn't make any sense.
No content change.
Minutes were approved pending clarification. Pending clarifying edits or whatever. Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Minutes pending some.
All in favor? Any,
Jill?
any abstentions? Just one abstention. Great. Let's go to the municipal planning grant resolution then.
Yeah, so, I don't have anything to show you on screen for that, but we are applying for a municipal planning grant, to develop a, bicycle and pedestrian plan, otherwise known as an active transportation plan. And that term is used, it's just, we can get UPW funding that way for it. So our plan is to apply for an MPG for the public engagement component of that, and then to potentially use the municipal planning grant to match grant application to the UPWP program. And bike ped plans run about 80 to 100,000. So yeah, it's a lot of money, and so that's why we wanted to try to get a little bit more grant funding to leverage that. What else? Yeah.
Would that be for the entire town, and how does it interact with the existing, like, say, scoping studies that we've had, like the one for the village task corners or previous work?
So it would be an overarching plan that would cover the whole town, probably focusing on the areas of planned growth, but definitely, I mean, including the entire town, the focus on the growth area and where it's planned for growth. And it would gather the information from all these scoping studies. So we've done all these different scoping studies and feasibility studies of this and that. So we gather all that information and sort of into a cohesive whole. It would also be, like through a public process, that's pretty substantial. Sort of envisioning a public process, kind of like what we did for town plan, but maybe not quite as big as that, but pretty big, to get input into the identification of gaps and problem areas, and to be able to prioritize those, all the different projects, and basically we end up with a project list with description and recommendations for addressing those different areas or projects, and basically an overall plan for how to get it done. And some good examples out there are the South Burlington active transportation plan, the Winooski bike ped plan. Those are really good examples. But that's kind of the goal, is to be able to really help the town decide what to do next and how to go about doing it, so that we can start funding these projects, and also knowing, like, having some idea of how much things would cost.
Does anyone have any questions, or is there any info that anything you're looking for?
You did a visual, which is your memo to the select board.
Oh,
Right here, which is excellent.
okay, sorry. Where is that?
I just pulled it up out of the select board's agenda.
Oh, the
but-
select board.
But all I'm gonna say is it's right on. So we talked about last meeting, getting some traction going on some of these things that don't have specific things to go into the capital budget yet, but we need to look at a broader definition.
Right, and when I wrote the memo, there was some question as to whether a bike ped plan was gonna be a strong application. So the memo contains a different idea for a grant, but
With third space.
the third space evaluation, but I think that, well, since I wrote the memo, I got some feedback from CCRPC and was encouraged to apply for an MPG grant. And, I think it could be a strong application. I think we built some momentum with, some around like multimodal transportation, especially with having just completed the town plan and like all of the public input related to that.
I'm sort of don't like when municipalities study and study and study and then they study the studies. And I know we've had already a study about this piece, but I feel we need this because it's the backdrop for a lot to come. And an example is something that I struggle a little bit with, which is I want to connect the rec path that runs from Allenbrook School to Williston Central School because it goes on streets through Southridge, and I want to connect that. And how that project relates to the multimodal pathway in Taft Corners in the village being defined in an official way would be very helpful. Because to me, they serve two very different needs. But someone could say, oh, well, we have another way to get there, and that may not, it might be nice to have an official prioritization. So to me, this is exactly what's needed.
No, I think your first point, Chapin, about things being sort of studied into oblivion and not acted on is a good one. And, we luckily had a really, I hope, good experience developing a town plan that was just so geared toward taking action, and we would bring that same style into this. And then to your second point, I think being really clear-eyed because about what things are for, because I've seen this time and time again. Someone will say, well, we ought to build XYZ bike facility. And someone says, well, can't they just ride over? And it's like half a mile, In fact, I had a citizen call me when we did the scoping for the village to Taft Corners and said, well, you can go on the bike path and through Southridge and get there that way. And I said, well, yes, you can, but it's convoluted and, at minimum, it needs some wayfinding. And the person then said, well, wayfinding, what the heck is that? And I said, it would be signs, so that people could find their way. And then the person said, oh, well, you don't need that. It's easy to get. I get through there just fine. And I thought, okay, so, a bike ped plan, a good one, addresses all of those kinds of objections. And says, actually, these are distinct facilities, and wayfinding is important to make sure that the facilities are usable by all kinds of people, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think I would encourage us, if we get to launch that project, to bring that collective experience in and say, there are nuanced and sort of multi sort of faceted things about trying to stitch this system together. And yes, you can collect all the scoping studies that you already have. And you talk about, here are the most desirable projects. Here are the projects that are the closest to being able to be designed and funded. Here are the smallest projects. Here are the biggest projects that are critical, cheapest, most expensive, et cetera, et cetera.
And if we make a linear park and bike path between Route 2 and Mountain View going up the Cirque Highway right of way where the gas line runs, that's in our stated goals. If we're going to do that, how do you connect to that from this one? Right. From the multimodal one between right there. Do you go in through Allenbrook School to get to it, or is there going to be another way to get there? Anyway, we haven't even begun to think about that, and I feel a study like this.
Get started.
Yeah.
I have a question, but do you have to run this over like right now? When is it on the agenda?
8:15.
Okay, cool. I'm curious. So I think you may have mentioned this, but the piece where you say we're uncertain if the active transportation plan matches the current priorities, and so you're considering the third spaces. Is there a reason why? Like, what's the reasoning it wouldn't align? Because it seems really compelling to say, hey, we put this in our town plan, and it's about active transportation. So why have the secondary piece?
Right. And I imagine that you're probably I may get asked that question over there as well. So it's good to respond to that. Yeah, so looking at the state, the guidelines for the program, it does really put an emphasis on housing because that's such a big need. So projects that are addressing housing in some way or economic development. I didn't see like bike ped plan potential project, but it does, I asked CCRPC and they felt it falls into the, capital projects and planning, category. So that is a state priority. It might not be the strongest one, but, that just means that we're gonna have strong supportive language in other pieces of the application.
And the South Burlington one is certainly a shining example.
So I do have another question, which is how, the CCRPC has a regional active transportation plan. Right. And so how does this either make use of that, intersect with it, build on it? Like, what is the relationship between the town level and the regional active transportation plan?
I think the town level is a lot more detailed. The regional level, it focuses on, I think, like more region-wide connections, and whereas, in Williston, there's a lot of, there's a lot of connections that won't be in that region-wide plan, so it will make use of it, definitely. And it'll expand on it and be more detailed.
At minimum, they have to align with the external connection,
Right.
to the towns.
Yes.
Although they're
So are you saying, Hannah, that maybe, are you suggesting that the third spaces part not be included, or just not to downplay the?
I think if there isn't like a release, you obviously have all of the context on like what the priorities of the municipal planning group are, so I'll like defer to staff's recommendation on that. But I think that the first section is really compelling. It's an outcome plan, and it feels to align that the third spaces thing might feel like a distraction to the main point. But if you think it should go in, then
To be clear, this memo's already been.
they already
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
resolution.
Yeah.
That part, ideally should be signed by the planning commission before bringing over. So yeah, I wish that I'd gotten a more clear answer about that before I wrote the memo, but.
Yeah, this always happens with the time
Yeah.
when the NPG stuff comes out, and this is just asking the select board to say, yes, it's okay for the town to go forward and apply for this money,
Which
which it is,
Yeah.
should be. The other thing I say about bike ped plan is, what we're looking at, trying to get grant funds here is our match. As Mona said, for this larger project, and I plan to, as we track this, put in my requested budget to fund this match just out of town funds. If just not if, just please give me that much money in planning stuff.
So
Might be.
If it were $100,000.
if it's $100,000 project in the UPWP,
Right.
then we actually need a 20% match
Right.
for UPWP, then it would be, 20,000.
Some support I'm getting for bike ped plan in general also is we're inching towards closing out the old bike ped bond. And for those of you who don't know, that was a bond that was taken out without naming specific projects and then sort of expended over the life of the bond to fund, management components of the expansion of the town's bike ped network. And we've been told by our auditors in the bank that we can't do that way again. So if we are to take on debt to build bicycle pedestrian projects in the near future, if we're to take on debt to build them, we're going to have to identify the projects and take on the debt to build specific projects. So you want to have a really solid plan that's laid out priorities and talking about how things work together, so that when you go to the voters, you say, the projects we're trying to fund this bond are the keystone projects of the bike ped plan, bang for the buck, essentially. So this ties into that effort as well, and hope to be able to communicate to the select board that whether we can find the money through grants or we need to come up with ourselves, this is a really high priority, and, you know, people don't usually come to town plan meetings and say, you know, you guys should really do a bike ped plan, but what they do say is, I really want more bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure in town, or I want to be able to walk and bike too, right? And we heard that.
And we don't already have a public works division that's working on bike ped infrastructure, and so we need.
And most importantly, this is one of the top 20 actions in the
Top 20.
Yes. Yeah.
There it is. We're gonna get them.
One of 20. Melinda, you might have want to go a little bit early, very ahead of the time. So like the interview, that we have 3 person, I'm the only one, the other 2 never show up. Like anywhere to come over there and say, oh,
Oh, they are?
No.
How would you schedule?
It's like
Eric,
15 minutes, you each other.
Eric usually texts me if it's getting close, but we can also.
It's not on until 8:15, like CCRPC is better.
Are they doing like an annual report tonight or
They're doing their annual.
their budget?
But you said you already interviewed? Maybe they shifted things around. They must have shifted things around. A little bit. This was good. Okay.
I'll bring the meeting up and just keep an eye on it.
Yeah, all right.
See where they're at.
Great. Do we have any remaining questions or comments on the municipal planning grant resolution that we wanna knock out?
Ma'am.
Do we need to vote on that, or is that just like?
Probably should vote.
Oh,
on
okay.
everything.
I just signed that. Okay, yes. Linda handed it to me like, okay, it's time.
Y'all did that one?
Yeah, that was really sweet. We'll just
I
measure.
would get Hannah sign off on the planning
Yeah.
that proposal as presented. Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's everyone. That's unanimous. Excellent. Oh, it looks like Shayla's joined us. Welcome, Shayla.
She's-
Hello, thank you. Sorry,
No worries. So let's go ahead and look at the annual report. Okay.
I had one comment. There's not many pictures.
I have a comment that has to go before that, though. I think it would be a really good idea for me to spell Williston correctly in the very first line of the report.
I didn't notice.
No, and it didn't flag it, but for some weird reason, but it's Williston apparently is the new spell right at the very top. Keep going up, all the way up to the very, very top.
Well,
If I'm gonna.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Didn't catch it either, so
Yes,
that also.
there we go.
that's
Good way.
supposed to be a test. You're not supposed to call yourself out on that. You're supposed to see if any of us can figure it out.
I thought it was very well written. It's so hard to write about the last year. And I felt as though in the forward-looking thing, or in our. On the second page. It was all accurate and there's sort of no punch to it. Because there's not like what we've done, what we're gonna do. Like on the Oak Hill Road Safety Study, it goes as far as saying that members of the public asked for us to extend the study.
Yeah.
And it didn't say.
Here's a punch list.
Yeah, it didn't say anything, any actions, but I realized also you can't put, it's tricky. And unless it's things like bylaw amendments that we have a date we're planning to submit bylaw amendments relevant to something. So that was, my feelings extremely well written and the last second page was kind of bland.
We were also creating that out of the list. That was provided, so this is so much better than the list that. You know, you have to sort of
Yeah.
calibrate things. What was provided.
I should have prefaced it by saying, I'm okay with it. I thought it was
Yeah.
well written and it covered what we did.
mhm.
Yeah.
Talking about photos, do we typically put the photos there?
When for
I
years.
think
I
the
did-
photos was later, like we wouldn't, that wasn't Steve and me.
Yeah.
We can drop pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like to to have any chance of inspiring the public who reads this, having a. Having a picture or some bullet items. And I agree with not adding bullet items here, it's so tricky, but having a picture would at least engage people a little bit.
We have a
We've
ton of pictures.
Typically had pictures in the past too, so,
Okay,
yeah,
so makes sense.
yes.
Those of you who wrote it, what do you want feedback about, or do you have questions?
Anything that needs to be expanded upon, clarified, et cetera, that's really the only, I mean, from my point of view, that's the only thing I would look at.
I just, your introductory sentences are always perfect, because they sort of say, we're trying to do this and balance it with this. We're trying to, it always sets it up in a way that doesn't feel one-sided, it feels like.
Good,
This is good.
Yeah, it was also tricky because there was a fair amount of, because it was such a big year.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of detail that's completely gone,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and so I found myself even in editing, Stephen's excellent first draft, that it was like, oh yeah, we, you know, can't really go into that. We gotta sort of make this more concise and, you know, but then a lot of the details are kind of erased.
I kind of looked at it as everybody likes to eat sausage, but no one wants to see it being made.
There could be, at the beginning, it says we're just looking out for the future of Williston or something. We could include an excerpt from the town plan or something that's a little more. I know in the past when we said we wanted walkable, blah, 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 blah. It creates an Williston plan which addresses land use, blah, blah, blah. So implement a long-term vision, that's as far as we go, we don't say what's in that long-term vision at all.
Well,
And
we do a little bit down in Williston 2050 section.
Yes, but it doesn't even say what they are, it just says the process. That's what
Oh,
I'd say,
you're
let
right,
it be
yeah.
kind of vanilla kind of plan.
Mhm.
So there's nowhere that we say what we're trying to accomplish in the long term. And I don't know, because it's hard to get into that without.
Too much detail.
I think,
Yeah,
I mean, I wonder if the Williston 2050, 25 town plan section could be less about the process and more about like bring more of that livable, resilient, equitable, like just
Yeah, bring the vision.
bring the vision,
Mhm.
that's what I'm trying to, yeah.
Yeah, like
Good
say,
idea.
you know, we developed a new town plan. With the sort of like the North Star of this
Yeah.
livable, resilient, equitable vision, which informed. Everything all the way down to the actions, something like that.
I'll take a swag at that paragraph
Okay.
and then I'll fire it off to you, Megan, for.
Great.
and I
Slicing
think
the
my thing is, could we actually just borrow the vision statement or?
I was just
You
about to do
know what
that.
I'm saying is.
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
Can we actually pull right from it?
And then in the bylaw amendments section, there's, it kind of feels like a sentence fragment. I wonder if that first sentence and second sentence, where it says bylaw amendments, Act 181/B home, refers to updates to the state's Act 250 land use law. I wonder if it's like, Williston updated, Williston's bylaw amendments focused on these
Yeah.
things in accordance with,
Yeah,
Act 181B home in order to do these things.
yeah, or even in accordance with changes to state
It's
law.
just changes to state law, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's
Oh,
great.
according to state law, parenthesis, act, Williston 181.
181, yeah, okay, okay.
But I like the areas of focus a lot, like you said, you can't, there's a lot going on and we can't like get into details all on it, but I think it does a good job of like.
I thought that was the things we had to change in the bylaws, but there you got the
Like
punch.
really,
Okay.
really on
I'll take
point,
some,
yeah.
Mhm.
Any other comments or areas that you wanted specific thoughts on?
Just any areas of clearly boneheaded stuff on my part.
I think I already got you there, Stu. There was no boneheadedness.
Oh, yeah, there was a misspelling of Williston right at the top.
Yeah. I think to specialize in such things.
And what's the next step for this? You'll put in the edits and then
Yeah.
eventually we'll send it
It's not
along.
due until December,
Yeah, so.
We're doing great.
so.
That's
Well, it's really good to do early because it's supposed to be through June 30th, and so when we wait and do it later, we have
More input,
Forget.
yeah.
we have a time work problem.
Consider it done.
Excellent. All right, let's move to the short-term rental ordinance.
Okay. Right. So, yeah, this was. I think, I'm not, well, was it transmitted to the select board? I think it was.
It was sent over to them. We don't know that they ever really discussed it as a group.
I don't think.
It's on their list of policy issues. or
It's
something.
on the list of policy issues. It's primarily a matter of discussion between the town manager and the chair. About when is the chair willing to dive in, basically. So I had let the town manager know that the planning commission very much wanted that to happen. So.
I was really glad to read it again. And I don't have things that I would suggest changing. The big picture of that we sunset people, you have to be a resident, you have to. Follow parameters. And that we grandfather people of existing ones for more than 6 months before this goes into effect, but that grandfathering ends. It might be based on the timing that we're a year later now, that instead of the 2028, it must be
Yeah.
2029 or
Yeah.
something. But to me, there's way too much legally stuff for me to feel happy. But I think you got it all from looking at other people's ones and avoiding a lot of problems by putting stuff in, like that you have to take care of coals from the whatever and not put them in the trash. There's a lot of detail that I would not have thought we were putting a sort of a basic ordinance. You have to live on the land to have a short-term rental, live on the property.
Mhm.
But I think all of it came from good places, and Melinda, you're a real expert at doing that. And I feel like if it's, everything that's there is there for a reason. And I have no problem with the basics. but-
And nothing jumped out at me as being, it seems kind of shoved in there.
Yeah. One thing we talked about is a little hard to figure out is that penalties of $800 per whatever, and then it doesn't happen if you fix it within 7 days or something. There's a lot of outs, and then that you can only ask someone you can only discontinue someone's ability to register if in the previous year there are at least 2 unreasonable, so there's some whatever. But there was a lot of ways to resolve an issue that would have it not be sort of on your record. It looked like, I was not sure about the enforcement part, but my feeling is. We're trying to make it so we don't have to enforce it by insisting people live on the property. We're trying to reduce all of that.
Right.
And so that's not the main part of it. The main part of it is you have to live on the property to have a short-term rental. And so hopefully all the penalty stuff will take care of itself and is not.
Yeah.
Central.
And that's gonna winnow the herd a little bit.
Yes. Yes, and $100 a year is very reasonable, and it probably pays for some administrative time for the officer to process the application. We're trying to make it that nothing has to really happen. We're making it that you can inspect it. We're making it that the fire can inspect it.
Mhm.
Actually, you do have to provide a certificate.
For,
Inspection.
the state fire marshal's office, the STR owner has to provide a certificate from the state fire.
So that means they do have to get a fire inspection. But that's the only inspection I think they're requiring, right? Because part of our goal is to have it be administratively cheap for us to administer.
And likely to have a very relatively small barrier for them to actually tell us about it, like.
Right.
If it's really hard, they're like, "No, I'm not gonna bother until someone comes and tells me it's a problem."
Yes,
So we want
That's right.
participation on both sides for it to be, relatively non-arduous. Is there an action item we need? Cause we already sent it over.
Just want to remind, we'll remind the manager and select board chair that it's been sent over, and also just inform them that you all looked at what you sent a year ago and didn't want to make changes, and, that just shows that, you're not just sort of saying like, hey, we gave you something a year ago, what happened to it? It's like we actually took a look at it and agreed that this is still, the way we want to go.
I would also add that we don't want to become as administratively complex as some of the other Chittenden County towns have. And part of being administratively simple means avoiding problems by acting early. Burlington and South Burlington are dealing with grandfathering and changing rules on people who already been doing things, especially Burlington right now. They're getting sued, right, by people that don't want to go along with the changes. So our motivation, it's important to convey to them that our motivation is to avoid the problems by having this early. If the select board agrees with this.
Also, it's in the town plan. So we can do another one. Back that one.
What do we expect to, after we adopt this, what is the good and bad thing that could happen?
Well,
We'll get complaints from people who have currently non-owner occupied ones. But we're giving them a certain number of years to be grandfathered in.
I mean, those people will likely show up at the hearing too. So,
Yeah, you may get people at a hearing or an information meeting with the select board who, do operate short-term rentals in that way, who would like either the deadline extended or would like to engage with the board on, isn't there some way I could be allowed to do it this way? And that'll be a conversation. I think once something's adopted, let's just say that what's written is adopted, there will inevitably be somebody who goes beyond that horizon and needs to engage at some level of enforcement. There will inevitably be somebody who complains about the way that a Airbnb is being operated, and a need for the town to follow up on that. We may think about, do we scan the ads once in a while and just inform people who aren't on the books, hey, you need to come in and, pay us $100 and get on the list. And that's another reason to keep that fee low is it's not something that people are gonna try really hard to avoid, so we just wanna get you in the fold.
Looking at following the link that you put in the agenda and looking at some of the ones. I mean, people are charging me between $200 and $400 a night for two or three people. $100 registration fee per year, it seems. Just not.
Just fine. Thank you. Hey, Jill has a question.
Oh, Jill? Or is that a mouse?
I don't know.
oh. Maybe it's a
What is do you have a question? It looks like there was like a waving hand over your picture.
Oh, yeah, I was just looking at something on the file that you had sent, so. that was-
Because I asked the question because I seen the extreme case is happening, right? So currently in New York City, right, for past year or so, where they enforce this very religiously. And what happened is that all the hotels are so-called like the price are go all the way high because they ban the
They
limited
limited the supply.
So that's one another extreme.
Yeah,
What's this A stream?
No, one extreme where they
Extreme.
totally ban it.
Extreme.
They totally ban it, like they don't allow it.
Yeah.
And that's what.
Well, and an intermediate thing that will happen is that the grandfathered ones will be more valuable during the period of being grandfathered because fewer other ones will become available. It's gonna reduce the number, and that's part of our intention is to have permanent residents in housing. So there will be a period of time when the grandfathered ones are more valuable on the market.
Mhm. We do have a large number of hotels here, so
Yeah.
people can stay, but, yeah, I think also something we put in the town plan was something around, monitoring trends that would make housing potentially more unaffordable and someone purchasing properties for short-term rentals only versus someone who's a homeowner
Mhm.
would maybe counteract those affordability goals, so, cool.
Okay.
Thank you for doing such a
Thank you.
good job the first time, Melinda.
Sure, I can't even remember this. So.
You saw that annual report, there's been a lot of work done since this, and,
Okay.
All right, capital budget memo.
And can I just say one more thing, one more angle? It's gonna save the town money. In other words, the complications and the lawsuits and the problems with partying and stuff that other towns experience over time. We're heading off problems, and by doing it early, we're heading off problems with
Preventing.
sorry.
Okay, let's go. The last one.
Mickey's on a mission.
Okay, what is this? This is PC memo. I have nothing showing up.
While Melinda looks at that, I wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much to Megan and Stephen for the annual report. Really appreciate that. And also that I definitely really support moving the short-term
you.
rental ordinance forward. So thanks to staff for resurfacing that. And just preemptively, while we're looking at this, I really love this plan of providing this ahead of time, this capital budget. And I know that was a last minute ask last meeting, and that it was not on the to-do list before that last meeting. And so just really, really, really appreciate you guys doing it and having it be so comprehensive. It's great. Thank you very much. And I had one, just while I'm still off mute, sorry, one edit, which in my phone, it looked like where you talked about the pedestrian stuff down below, that there was something missing. Up a little bit, I think. Oh no, there it is. Sorry, down. No, you were right there. Bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure :
Yep.
Oh, where?
Yeah, next, right down here.
All the way at the base.
Oh, yeah, it's missing because, I guess.
It's just obvious.
Everything. What should we do here?
What would you like to recommend? Yeah, I don't know. There was just so much that I kind of didn't know where to start.
It's fine, Melinda. I just wanted to, that was my only edit. Otherwise, it looked incredible.
Can I just put a plug in for, making changes that have already been identified, like in the Oak Hill safety study? That's completed for at least the section up to Butternut Road, and there are a bunch of recommendations in there, and
Are they capital budget items though, or are they
No.
operational budget?
yeah, that's a good question. I don't know what the
I feel like
boundary
they're
is
making-
with signs and.
Yeah, that's not really capital. I think it's
Okay.
I don't know what the
Hey,
threshold.
No, it's right. I
10,000.
forgot.
I think it's $10,000 and something that's gonna last at least 5 years.
I mean, there are this memo sort of strays from capital budget a little bit, that
Okay.
it mentions the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and it mentions Environmental Reserve Fund, and strictly those things aren't.
They're like capital.
They're not really capital budget, they're not, I don't know whether they're considered operating budget, maybe they are. So there may be a little bit more work to do on this, but.
I mean, could you say something like implement any capital requirements
Yeah, that's a good idea.
based on the recommended actions of the Oak Hill Road study or something like that? Just as a catch-all to say, if
Yeah.
there are capital elements, because we have to buy signage or you know,
Right.
whatever.
No, I think that's fair. And, you know, this is really intended to, you know, be conveyed to the town manager to be shared with department heads. And it's kind of a heads up. We have adopted a new town plan. We have a new document we'll be comparing the capital plan to under the statutory duty of the planning commission. I don't think that what the new town plan says is much of a surprise, but it's just that pointed reminder of, you know, we're looking for ways to be able to say, yes, this capital program aligns with the goals and priorities of the town plan.
Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
Under this section also for the bike and pet infrastructure, is there? Like I really like how rewinding, I really like the recent progress made section. I think it starts on a really positive note. It's like, hey, we did stuff last time, we got allocated funds. Like now looking forward, I'm wondering if under bike and pet infrastructure, there's like, what's the next piece of like the Williston Road multimodal scoping study complete? Like, what's the next piece that we can put here and say, this is the thing? Cause we just talked about the
match
municipal,
money to the.
right, like, we
But I
just
don't
talked
know
about
if
the
that's
municipal
part of the
planning grant,
investment. Is
but
that-
like.
Matt had said he was planning to include it in his regular budget.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the match for a study, because it's a study. And so it's
Yeah, it's not-
not a durable good
Right,
essentially.
yeah.
We would keep in operating. The actual, you know, construction would go into capital.
So there's nothing we can,
The-
I just wanna be like, cause like you talked about shaping of like that thing where we study,
Yeah.
and then. We leave the studies and we keep studying, and then in 8 years, we re-update the study because it's like, is there something we can be like, we did the study, you gave us the money for. Like,
Something
you
we
know,
can, something we
is-
can do.
Is there something actionable we can
Yes.
put here?
What about the industrial? Avenue sidewalk?
So in theory, the study is first phase, second
That
one
might
is
be
some sort of
more.
quotation or some sort of
Yeah.
more of a substantive plan, that will be a
Mhm.
next step. Once you size it up, that thing is funding, right? So of course, if we have a study is completed and we want to proceed to the next step, there has to be a more of a scope,
Mhm.
right? Coming up with some kind of estimate, right? So that will be the next step.
Yeah.
That was what they said in the presentation last time. They're like, we're at this phase, and it was a scoping study, and then the next phase is this
Right.
construction documents. Or
Yeah,
or whatever
so
it
it's
is.
not- There's a ways to go before the multimodal,
Yeah.
before we can do any construction of.
Right, like there's more.
Last year, you guys, I think you said something fairly generic for bicycle and pedestrian, like. I don't know, you actually like looked at the, that section of the capital plan and said, you know, implement the recommended, I can't remember the language, but basically. Implement the recommended,
There were connection.
improvements.
Yeah.
That are, in the, on page so and so in capital budget. And maybe I should have just left it in here, but,
Can I ask 3 questions in this area? One is the status of the Allenbrook boardwalk on the Allenbrook Trail. That's a repair, not a new capital thing, but doesn't complain to here, is that right?
Right.
Okay, and the other second is what Melinda was saying, which is it is on our long-term plan to complete sidewalks along Industrial Avenue.
Yes.
I thought that project was fairly far along and that they had
Is in the part of the
money for
whatever that we are
construction,
doing
but.
now.
They've redone sidewalk from 2A down to the bridge, and now they're fixing the pedestrian crossing the bridge.
Mhm.
But after you get across the bridge, where do you go?
I think that's the section that's.
Yeah,
Been slated for construction, but I don't know exactly where it's at.
I'm trying to look it up in last year's, cause I thought it was programmed in last year's capital plan. Yeah, it's in the narrative.
Maybe I can look at.
and another one that I think we were waiting on, hoping that somebody would develop the business on that corner is on Zephyr. That last 150 feet to the bus stop at 2A. Right, when they made the housing there is a sidewalk on the other side, but when they put the house, they changed the hotel into housing, homeless housing.
Right.
They got sidewalk right there, but it doesn't go the last 150 feet to Route 2A where that's where the bus stop is for the people in the housing. So they can cross the
Yeah.
road and use the sidewalk and then cross the road back at the intersection, but
Where's the bus?
the bus stop is on this, on the side that they're already on.
Yeah.
The,
And I think it's kind of like, isn't there kind of like maybe a stormwater little dip there too, if I'm thinking of the right spot?
I don't know, but I didn't know whether it's time to say where it should be done.
Well, that's one reason why to do a
Yes. the
Like-
study.
head plan.
Yeah.
So that, so that we have that list and we have it, at hand, so we can say, oh, okay, so there's that.
In the same, do we have a mechanism like, so under affordable housing, we say, allocate, a certain amount that we want to put in towards the affordable housing fund? Can, we say we're doing a planning grant, like we're gonna build something, put money, or is that too generic? And they won't, yeah,
And that's what Matt was sort of saying, we can't.
we can't do
we can't, like,
for a
bond
month.
for it the way we.
Right. Cause it looks to me like industrial ave sidewalks were described but not programmed in for any money
Oh.
over the span of last year's capital plan.
Mhm.
There is a discussion in there that it would be a transportation alternatives grant and that the town's match would be a certain amount. And there was a mention in the narrative last year that a scoping study was underway for one or the other phases of that sidewalk project. I'm looking right now, trying to figure out, if that scoping study was published.
It would, are you on CCRPC?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm doing their search thing right now, cause I didn't find it just by Googling
yeah, so.
from the outside.
But this is, this is one of the prime reasons
Yeah.
why there needs to be a
Yes.
townwide coordinated plan.
And
on all
there's
this.
Brown Hill Road intersection
We're
with
not like, oh.
Route 2, yeah.
Where can we put it, where can we ask for money to build a sidewalk? Yeah.
Mhm.
It feels like a shame to send this off without putting something else under here, but if we
Right.
need to do the planning grant in order to know what goes here, then.
I mean, there's probably some more language that you could put in there, and I'm sorry that I was in too much of a.
No, not at all.
Hurry or whatever, that I didn't wait.
I'm not seeing that industrial as a completed study recently.
Okay.
There was an old study in 2012 for some of it.
Mhm,
We'll have to go back and take a look.
yeah,
Well, then, we were hoping with the New England Chimney Company or whatever to get sidewalk on that side of Route 2 and a crosswalk
Mhm.
across Brown Hill Road. And all that hasn't happened, but I don't know at what point it becomes a capital project for the town.
I mean. It sounds, I don't know how, I wouldn't know how to word this, but like, spend money to build some sidewalk or.
Invest
I don't know,
in.
invest in that, invest
Yeah.
in.
To what extent have the gaps been identified and prioritized? So the one by Zephyr, the one by Brown Elm, I mean, has that, any kind of a comprehensive list been made, or is it still kind of out there?
No, I mean, it's most of these things, I think, are on the official map, but.
It's the legacy that comes from saying, we're only gonna do this stuff when we get developers to pay for it, because they're developing a parcel. And suddenly you wind up with a parcel with a gap for a long time, and for instance, the one along Route 2A from Zephyr to the next road. Was for a long time, nothing there, and there's a swale there with cattails or phragmites. It finally was done. But I think because our philosophy has been, wait till there's a developer who's gonna pay for it, because they're trying to do something to the property, it's left us that. We haven't been proactive.
Mhm. So you end up with gaps that are co-located with
Right.
places that haven't been redeveloped or where it's very difficult to develop the infrastructure.
And the areas that get prioritized, I think, you know, if they're not like something a developer would do. Are the areas there that where people are complaining the most, you know, so like if there's a group of people and they want a certain sidewalk, you know, in this area, and they just keep,
Mhm.
you know, I don't know, just,
Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
yeah,
Mhm.
I think, I mean.
Well, Matt told me a long time ago, it's a complaint-based system. Adopted that. Even in my house. It's a
Complaint-based system.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a complaint-based system.
I've always
I
told
took
that.
that very seriously.
Oh, Megan, I've always called that the goat trail strategy.
Oh.
Which is,
Oh, yeah.
you build a college campus, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then they very carefully
Desire
lay out these
Yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
sidewalks that nobody uses. They
Right.
create these diagonals
Yeah.
with shortest distance. Forget the sidewalks, just wait and pave the goat
Yeah,
trails. I
that's what
mean,
UVM does.
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
just wait
wait,
Yeah.
to see where the desired paths are.
Yeah.
makes sense.
Then pave them.
Shayla, you have something?
Yes, I have, it's radical coming from me, so we don't have to do it, but I sort of think that it's okay to say that we need to do the plan. And maybe we say that, you know, we hope that that Public Works will address issues that arise throughout the year and the Oak Hill Road safety results, and that we're, you know, looking toward the following year based on the plan to be able to prioritize for them in a thoughtful manner, because that hasn't happened. I mean, I kind of think it's worth calling out that it is sort of the squeaky wheel, you know, process, and that's not really what we think is the best policy for using, you know, taxpayer dollars, and that we are in the town plan calls for the thing that will provide a thoughtful manner in which to implement these kind of capital projects, you know,
Mhm.
in a prioritized way. And then and sorry if you already said this, we wouldn't use any capital funding for the multimodal because it's still all the planning.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So we don't have to go with that, but that's just a thought I have. I think one of the things I really want to be clear about with the select board is that we're not, you know, while I like many of you want to see progress so badly on some of these things, and Williston people were so clear about wanting improved bike and pedestrian infrastructure. So I don't want to minimize that, and I don't want to slow walk it, but it's also very clear that, you know, there's less federal money, there's less state money, there's less town money, and people are concerned about that. And I think we have a way of coming up with how to think about this thought in a thoughtful manner. And you know, we can tell them to look out for next year. We're going to have asks, but we're going to do it in this way.
I wonder if a bullet should say, we anticipate significant capital projects for pedestrian infrastructure next year and the year after. So that it's like a warning to reserve headspace, thinking space for.
Yeah, I like that as well.
Mhm.
And maybe that everything that Shaylee was saying kind of isn't in a bullet point, it's in like a, you know,
Paragraph.
it's in kind of a paragraph. And like it kind of frames the whole thing of like, yeah, this section really only has implement capital actions because we want to prioritize this thing, which doesn't get capital funding right now. But in upcoming years, we anticipate there will be.
Yeah, I think giving everybody as much of a window as you can into like, here's what it looks like right now, here's where we would hope you would be going. And you know, providing that feedback to the manager, it goes from the manager up to the select board chair, it goes back down to the department heads, and I think. All of the ideas, you know, assigning us to write a preliminary memo was a great move because it it helps us, not just have that disappointment, you know, I went back and looked, it's like usually that last week of December, first week of January, the thing is hot off the presses, it's going to the select board next week, there's no time to look at it. And this is a way the planning commission can be much more proactive about, you know, getting ahead of that. And, you know, you still might not have a lot of time to review the final capital plan. But
It's much better.
You've got this in.
Even tonight, aren't they reviewing future capital requests because of considering how much would have to be bonded for the library?
Yeah, so it's part of that discussion.
And so, to me, they don't, already are missing a piece for tonight of saying, we anticipate significant
They-
capital projects for bike ped infrastructure.
They did include the Route 2.
You
Yeah.
did, okay.
Yeah.
In fact,
The path?
I've been watching, the select board meeting just so I can tell Melinda when it's time to go over.
Hmm.
And in the time I've been watching, they've had their CCRPC update and there's just a long discussion about Oak Hill Road.
Really?
I'm not seeing who's saying what, but I assume Mike Isham speaking up about speeds on Oak Hill Road. Also, they've appointed an alternate for you guys, which I'm thrilled
great.
by. So,
Do we know who it is?
yeah, I sort of recruited him. It's Wilmer Chavaria.
Did they appoint?
He's the superintendent of the Winooski schools.
Oh.
Also the fellow who was detained on his way home from
Oh, that's a guy?
Honduras.
Yeah. I saw it, I saw it.
But he's,
Rockland native or something. right?
yeah, he's from there, he's visiting family and
Yeah.
basically, he had his school laptop with him.
Yeah.
And when the
They
pages
fixing
wanted
it,
to
but-
search it, he said, no, there's confidential stuff here and it caused him a problem. Anyway, he's a Williston resident. I didn't know. I know him a little bit through my wife's work in Winooski and we were talking about the struggles of getting people on boards. And she said, well, Wilmer lives in Winooski and he might be interested. So I bugged him
Great,
about it
cool.
and they just interviewed him and then they voted to appoint him. So you have an alternate again.
All right.
Long story, but.
What a good one.
Yeah.
One indeed.
They were quizzing him about the town plan when I looked down.
Could he answer any questions? I think that should be, that there should be a test. I mean, I want an alternate, but.
Yeah, no, so I'll hopefully ask him to start, coming to meetings when he can, and gaining some experience with the plan.
Right.
But we had a good preliminary
What's his
conversation.
first name?
Wilmer,
Wilmer.
Wilmer.
There's not a routine Winooski school meeting on Tuesday.
Apparently not, because usually when you ask people to take on a role, I mean, that's always been my answer to anything in South Berlin, says my Tuesdays belong to Williston, I'm sorry.
Right.
You can't be on any committees here. But no, he was enthusiastic about jumping in, which I thought was really
He
cool.
managed to join personally because he was supposed to join by Zoom and then cannot do convention.
He got in on Zoom, he was
Oh,
on Zoom
really?
when I saw him, so.
When I leave, then they were having trouble.
I like having someone who's connected to, public education right now, that's not something we always get to talk about, here. It's a big
Well,
part of
he's
town.
definitely in touch with minority community people.
Well, yeah, I mean, Winooski's
Yeah.
27 languages spoken in the school, last I heard. Love it. So, very cool. Yeah, so Charlie's still going with CCRPC.
He's still going, all right.
I'm texting,
Cool.
with Eric about when for you to, he said he'd let me know when they were ready for
All
it,
right.
so they're.
So what are
Back
we
to
doing
bike
with-
ped, yeah, Melinda, do you need any more thoughts on, any more thoughts on kind of the direction we wanna go with
So.
the bike ped infrastructure section?
So basically, kind of saying how it's done now, maybe not still mention the Oak Hill or not.
Oh, I mean. Maybe it's
I just-
too much operating, so, yeah,
So
no, I
basically-
think that one main point would be great, because then it really pops.
Mhm.
And then
Well,
take it out.
Okay. I was gonna suggest we just say we don't see capital requests for bike pedestrian infrastructure in this coming fiscal year. But we assume that the recommendations for Oak Hill safety improvements will be happening out of operational budget.
Oh, I like that, yeah.
And we anticipate having significant bike ped requests
Right.
in next year and year after.
So there are no, capital. Multimodal. There are no multimodal projects?
We could start by saying the town aims to complete a like comprehensive bike ped plan through not to municipal planning grant or whatever. And like from there, we expect like, and essentially like from there, we expect to know what projects we're prioritizing, but right now we don't have them.
Yes, if we want to say the thing about the Oak Hill Road. Operate, improvements along the way, I feel like we need to start with, we don't have ones this year, but we assume
Mhm.
that the operating budget will be making progress on the Oak Hill improvements that have already been identified. And they have been, they've already put some signs up whether they were where we thought they should be or not. Yes.
Yeah,
But
I like that,
that
because,
Public Works will continue to implement the identified
right,
maintenance changes. And then what you said about the town plan and future projects.
Something like that.
when we say
We
last
expect
year.
funding in
what does
future
that
years.
mean?
Well, I mean, we don't have this year's yet, so.
Oh, I see.
That's the thing.
Instead of suspect there, I would really say anticipate there.
Anticipate.
That's a stronger verb.
And do you want to say, instead of there to be, say, however, we anticipate funding in future years when the bike ped plan is complete? That's a question, not a statement.
Yeah, capital fund, capital.
Yeah, capital funding, yeah.
Once the bike.
I kind of want like these first two sentences, like I want to say, like nod to the fact that that's outside of the scope of capital planning. Like they know that it's not in it, probably. So maybe that's too obvious to say, but like it feels punchy to say we're not asking for money here right now, but we will next year.
Is falls within the operating. Would be funded.
Melinda, Eric is all set for you.
Okay. All right,
Well done.
Thanks, Linda.
Good luck.
Good luck.
thank you, yeah,
Go for it.
all right. Perfect.
All right,
Can you edit this now,
I'll slide it for that
Okay.
report in a second.
I have a hard time wordsmithing in a whole meeting.
In a live session,
Matt?
yeah.
Do you think there is repetition, though? We say, once the plan is complete, and then
Yeah.
at the very end, we say, once the plan is complete.
Yeah.
So.
I think someone
maybe
should,
just
someone
clean
should
it up.
wordsmith it.
Yeah.
We could just say,
Oh, yeah.
no.
If you can do that.
Yeah.
Feel free to.
Okay, so the town should develop unless Shayla, you can also jump in with your words and I can type, or anyone. The town should develop a comprehensive bike ped plan that identifies and prioritizes needs for paths and sidewalks to make a complete multimodal network. Such a study would be funded through the operating budget.
Can we make it as two different sentences?
Can,
The sentence is too long.
that's true. We could also just say, given that there are no bike ped projects,
Yes.
we are requesting funding, like, what's the word here? Like, given that we're gonna do this thing.
There are no specific bike ped projects being requested by the planning commission.
There,
This
okay,
year.
so specific bike ped projects. Being requested by the planning commission
This year.
this year.
Cause then, like, I think then we don't have to like hit it on the nose and say,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
but we're gonna ask you next year. We can just say we anticipate there will be. I mean, cause I also wanna leave it open. I don't know what the, is it Public Works who does the, I mean, there could be things that are identified by staff, not by us, that need to happen or that can happen, or things that come up. And I don't wanna like say we shouldn't do anything. I just wanna say, like, we are not coming to you, the select board, to say the town plan calls for this project this year, fund it. Because we don't have that, so.
Do we say we anticipate capital funding needs in future years?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
Can
fine.
we make the
Mhm.
however as a second sentence instead of like? Beginning
Yeah,
of the
that could
second
just,
sentence.
yeah. What? Sorry,
Yeah.
it's always weird jumping on a new, all the keys are in a different space.
I'm still unclear on what this year means.
2026.
In this budget,
FY 26. Okay, so then we should say
And
that,
avoid.
Well, hopefully it says at the top too, it says about the FY 26.
Right. but it's so ambiguous when you're reading it.
Yeah, okay.
Very
Yeah.
specific, yeah. No
we
problem.
just say in
October
this budget,
versus January or whatever.
Yeah, fine.
or for FY 27, or.
26.
It says twenty
well, so we're
twenty-seven.
in 26 now, FY 27 starts on July
Oh,
1, and
okay.
this is about developing the
So
27
27, okay,
and forward.
so that's why
Yeah.
I'm confused.
Yeah, we can always define that right up front,
Okay.
and say, this is the development.
And then here, okay, what do people think about that?
It's weird to me to say, given that.
Yeah,
starting a
I
new
think
paragraph.
that's
Yeah.
weird
Previous
too.
paragraph.
Should it be the
Get rid of
same?
Just say,
While.
there or no, or just start with there or no.
Eh?
And to me, everything comes before that doesn't need to be there because it's about operational budget, but it could, and I just.
But it gives context to why.
I gives context. I have a problem with it saying would, wherever it said would be funded through the operating budget. To me, it will be funded through the operating.
Yeah,
It's, the request's already been made. Matt says he's already putting it in his budget.
Well, yeah, I mean, I put it in, I'm
We
requesting
We'd
as
say
well, but.
is
We could-
expected to be.
we could just delete this sentence and make it an assumption that the bike ped plan is gonna get like.
We're getting it done.
We're gonna get it done.
Yeah.
And just say, there are no, like, we could just do this.
Good.
This can just be requested. I think.
Just requested, yeah. I like it.
That's
I like
good.
it. Cool. Now, we don't have Oak Hill maintenance in there, and I don't know if that's the place to compliment Public Works and working on the operational thing for. Whether we wanna give them a pat on the back. to
Oh,
encourage them to do
compliment
more.
with an I, not an E, huh? Okay. Well, I not all that impressed yet, so
Not
not sure I wanna do that, you know, it's like getting the trophy
So,
for showing up.
We. Yeah, the question to me is whether we say what I think Shayla started to say, did she? I'm not sure. Somewhere along the way, I thought we were gonna say. Um.
This assumes that,
We, we're, yeah, I know, I guess I don't know where to put it.
Shayla,
Because it's about capital and that's not capital. It's basically, we want Public Works to continue to implement the operational. Their operational budget to implement the changes that have been recommended on this existing study for OPEL. Which were not structural capital changes, they were trimming vegetation.
So does it even belong in here?
Yeah, that's,
yeah,
doesn't really.
Well,
I think
depends how you
unfortunately
take-
it doesn't. I think we can just address that in a separate place. That's maybe not this. I did say that we should put it in there, but I think you're right. It's not capital. But
Okay.
I'm not saying that because I think we should drop it. I'm just not thinking it's here.
Final the first we did.
all right. Is there anything else we wanna add to bike and ped infrastructure before, it looks like, Matt, do you know what else we need to do here? It looks like there was some yellow highlighted, maybe we need to fill in numbers, do you know what else we were supposed to work on?
So you don't necessarily need numbers. Although we could come up with something. I forget, we have numbers on that one and maybe there's.
The
one-
ARF, the
ERF.
Conservation Commission has numbers in it.
Did we use a percent in the past?
Well, we've talked about the idea of the half cent or something that reflects approximately. A half cent, quarter cent, full cent on the brand list, and we could, if you tell me you want me to do that, I can just come up with that in a dollar amount.
Yeah.
There's sort of been this more kind of semantic conversation about, do we set up these committed funds and what does that look like? And that kind of all played out with the RF and, the other way to do it is to say, we're just gonna commit to, putting in the capital plan that we're planning on setting aside this much money each of the next 5 fiscal years into this program. So I would suggest that we, if you want, I forget what the ERF amount ended up being.
This past year, it was 120,000 or something, is that a penny, was 120,000?
Was that half penny? I don't know what
Or
it.
whatever it was, came out to 120, they had thought they needed 175. And were considering asking 150, and then they went with the half cent or whatever it was, that came out to 120, I think. But the other thing we could do is we could say we would support implementing the Conservation Commission's recommendation on ERF funding.
Yeah, so
Can we say the same thing for?
So they did a
affordable
half.
housing Fund,
But was it a half?
they did a half cent, that was
Yeah,
the ballot.
which is 120,000 or something.
Yeah, 110, or they estimated at 110 pre-ballot, it might have come
Yeah.
out a little higher than that.
do we currently have affordable housing fund as an active?
Yes. So we have a trust fund, it had some money in it.
So then, can we write the same thing, like what we
Yes,
write
that we
for?
would support the housing committee's recommendation for how much to put in there.
We should put the same as it is, right? Should set allocate some amount, like whatever ERF to housing fund.
Oh, like
Yeah, we can
Do-
do similar thing,
add the bullet point like we
Yeah.
have.
right? We,
And should we acknowledge that like the ERF is getting funding via dedicated funding mechanism now, since the last.
Since they put it in
Like since the
budget.
last capital
I think
plan,
it's a pseudo capital item. It's right, we're not paying for a capital item and yet in the end it used to purchase or leverage purchasing a property, which would be a capital item.
Mhm.
So it's a reserve fund for capital things. So this is a memo about capital funding, and so to me, it's appropriate we address those. But not because they are capital funds, but because they are money for capital projects. Primarily, although the housing one could be used for programs too, right? I think the ERF cannot be used for programs, it's only for purchases. But the housing may be for programs too.
Okay, maybe let's refocus a sec. I think I'm getting lost. Are there what changes do we want to make to the affordable housing section? Does anyone have it? Like Matt, what, is that a good thing? Should we go through this section by section?
Yeah,
Cool.
so, you know, you could, number one, if we just wanna plug in a number. You could suggest 100,000, which is what a little less than what a cent on the rate looks like. You could suggest 50,000, which is a little less than what half a cent looks like.
Does the housing committee have a recommendation?
I don't think they do yet. I mean, you know, the counterpoint to putting a lot of money in this just yet is it's early days of administering this. The kinds of requests that they've gotten for trust fund disbursement have generally been someone's experienced an unforeseen event and they need a month's rent. Someone is experiencing a disability and would like to make upgrades to their home. Melinda, you could jump right in with this. We're talking about, sorry, they were trying to type.
That didn't happen now we're in affordable housing.
So we were talking a little bit about whether the group wanted to plug in a number for the dollar amount, and we were throwing around numbers that were roughly correlated to half cent or full cent on the tax rate, you know, $50,000 or $100,000. And then we were just getting the question of what's the current status of the trust fund, and you know, one of the things I was saying is it's early days. We have had some requests for trust fund funds. It's not been to build big stuff yet.
No,
Um,
it's basically. There's like two different programs that were launched this year. One is housing retention. The purpose of which is just to help keep people in their homes, geared towards if somebody is either, you know, falling behind on their mortgage or their rent, being able to provide like 2 months worth of rent payment and equivalent. To help them out, and we actually did award a grant for that this year. And the other one is the housing improvement program, so that's just to fund necessary improvements, like you know, accessibility improvements, or you know, pieces, you know, parts of building components that are failing or in danger of failing. And stuff like that to help, you know, again, help people stay in their homes. There are other potential programs that could be launched next year, such as there is one for ADUs. That, you know, that's, I guess, gonna be a discussion with select board, about, you know, how they want to expand this program in the future. But
So it
there's,
sounds like programmatic funding and not capital projects at this point.
yeah,
Yeah, and that might be a bit of a question of where does funding for the trust fund end up landing? I mean, the other thing about, you know, typically operating money doesn't accumulate year to year. So that's kind of why you look at a trust fund as living in capital, is because you don't want to, you know, be under some deadline to spend the money by, you know, June 30th every year. You want to build it up and be able to spend it. So
Yeah.
that's why we think about it
Yeah.
over there.
What if we just say we support the housing committee's recommendations about funding the housing fund, the affordable housing fund?
I think that sounds wise and they can be more specific.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. Again, this is not a place to kind of. Yeah, I like that.
Are there any reasons not to do that way?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Let's see, regarding. um,
Do we know what they're?
No, we don't, because they haven't
No,
discussed it yet.
It's punting to them, but they're the people who know
Mhm.
what the potential needs are.
Yeah.
And especially because they don't appear to be capital needs, I don't think we should
Mhm.
get into a lot. Okay, and then
Great.
we had one more for the emergency reserve fund.
Can I ask a question about the ERF? So it says land acquisitions and other investments to town's natural resources. Wildlife habitat, stormwater path connections, blah, blah, blah. And I guess I'm wondering. Like, are there things in our town plan that are in the, particularly say in the top 20 actions, but more broadly as well. That we would want to highlight specifically for this. As a priority. I guess one thing I'm thinking about is, and I have a little conflict of interest here, but is the Catamount Outdoor Family Center. Which is on town land but run by the nonprofit. And I'm just, I don't know if there are things that should be kind of prioritized in terms of kind of capital investment there, but
That has its own capital.
Yeah.
Budget,
oh, okay.
the
Its
Catamount.
own stream, okay.
Stream, yeah.
But is that something that okay, so it's not part of the ERF?
No.
Okay, but is that something that we would want to reinforce in any way in this document more broadly? Or is that completely separate from this whole process?
It's not, it is part of the capital budget planning.
Okay,
But not as part of the town. Is that what you're saying?
So,
No, it is
is
part of the
part-
town's.
so we
capital budget.
support the recommendations of the cat.
Can we just say, like, point it to the experts in places that.
oh, yeah, so, but it's not that clear because it's the Catamount Forest, right? Is the committee, am I right?
Mhm.
And that is not necessarily the same, they wouldn't necessarily identify the same needs for capital improvement that, say, the nonprofit would.
Mhm.
And yet the nonprofit is providing actually quite a service to the town because the town is mandated to keep those trails maintained. But the nonprofit does that. So I know it's a very complicated kind of arrangement. But I guess my broad question is should we be thinking about capital investments in Catamount as a recreational facility, not just as a forest, not just the town forest side, but as a recreational facility?
Yeah, I mean,
Can I
I'm
just
gonna-
ask if, is this, so I don't want to like do this to the exclusion of good ideas. So I want to just say that it could be that this is the right place for that kind of thing. But I do want to really be clear with the select board that this is coming from the planning commission as things that are clearly identified in the town plan as. So I just don't know, and I'm so sorry, I can't remember like where Catamount falls in that and kind of how that fits in. But I just would want us to be thoughtful and like it, because I think there is a space, and maybe we don't, like maybe we do. Here's what's in the town plan, and also here are some other priorities that we have identified in addition to that. But what I like about kind of the weightiness of this is that like we just did this incredibly onerous process doing the town plan, and like remember, here are the things that you have to fund because that we said that this was important and everybody weighed in and said it was important. And so I'm going to stop talking because I don't actually remember. And maybe Matt or Linda
So
can
it's-
remember for me if it's in there and how it's in there. Catamount.
It's in the recreation chapter.
Yeah,
And, you know, it says like Catamount Community Forest is permanently conserved, blah, 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 blah. Town has agreement with the nonprofit Catamount Outdoor Family Center to manage the trail system, camps and programming. And that kind of thing.
Which are programmatic, not
what
capital.
about at the end of the
Right.
chapter?
But, yeah, let's see the next.
Like look at the strategies, is there?
Yes, right, so if you go to chapter 8. And 8.10 is monitor, evaluate and adjust policies and programming at Catamount Community Forest. Evaluate long-term function of the forest management. Maintain collaboration, evaluate improvements to multimodal access.
And that could be capital.
Yeah. But I mean, the other thing is that they are looking at trying to create a building,
Mhm.
and that is capital.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a lot of capital.
Right.
So I guess what I'm asking is, like, if it's in the town plan. Enough so that we would want to call it out in any way.
I don't think so, because that's the nonprofit's capital plan. And I think what you're asking is, does the town want to contribute to that capital
And
budget?
does that create any kind of a precedent that we don't necessarily want to?
It's town land and the nonprofit. Doesn't have capital.
It's raising money for
Yeah,
it,
it is,
So
but
it
it
has a
can't pay
capital
for it.
campaign, and the
Right.
town could potentially contribute to that campaign.
Right.
But I think we should probably leave it to them to come to the town and.
Oh, they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my conflict of interest, is that my husband's on the
Yeah.
board, but. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know, this may not be the right instrument, and maybe it's not something that we should. Include here, but it feels like. You know, we've got this town land that is heavily used for recreational purposes. And. And are there capital investments that we should be thinking about? That's my basic question.
Yeah, I think, first off, there are some lines in the capital plan that are specifically related to funding trail work and trail infrastructure at Catamount, that, you know, very much aligned with everything the town plan says about what we want the town to provide for everybody and things like that. The building is a little stickier in that it supports the nonprofit providing the programming that the town values, and I think there's a recognition in the town plan that the town values the programming that's supplied by the family, you know, that's made available to the community because the family center exists, and the building is necessary for them to be able to continue to do that. But there's also the side of looking at it, you know, I'll never forget, when people wanted to save the Brennan barn, and I sat down with the town manager at the time, I said, people want to save the Brennan barn, it's gonna be great, like, we just need money and we're gonna save this barn. And Rick just looked at me across the table and said, so if we save it, what are we gonna do with it? Like, can the town draw the bright line of saying, we think we need this building? We, the town, need this building. Even if we need this building so this nonprofit can be successful, so it can provide this programming that we have said we value. And I don't think the town plan draws quite that whole line. That's the work of the committee. It's certainly, something that's being discussed, but it might be better at this level to say that the planning commission, supports a capital plan that achieves the actions called for in the town plan and helps achieve the objectives established by the town plan, which include access to really great outdoor recreation. And that means, in Williston, that means, it's not just the family center. We work with Fellowship of the Wheel to maintain trails at Mud Pond. We pay contractors to do trail work throughout our system. And there's more and more of an understanding that what was once volunteer trail work is very likely going to be fee for service trail work at some point, because the volunteer model is just not long-term sustainable. We've begun to have that conversation with Fellowship that there's a lot of work that happens at Mud Pond, and as work starts to involve equipment, machinery, people with training, insurance, all those kind of things, there really starts to be a question to the town of, is this important enough to you to start paying for it? And I don't think that conversation in any of those dimensions has been fully had yet.
We actually used to sort of pay, at least contribute a bunch of money to them every year, and then I guess that sort of fell by the wayside.
Fellowship of the Wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise, I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me that it
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, that might be a bit of a addendum at some point to start to say, we need to completely decide what the path is, for how those things are valued and then how they're supported. Cause it's a different thing than, paying a contractor to repave a road. And it's also a different thing from just owning a conservation area and, going out and having town employees do work somewhere in between.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I know it's a very complicated web with that.
It's good for us to be aware of it.
Yeah, but I just I felt like we should at least ponder it because, because there are a lot of.
The kind of thing that clearly to me would be a capital improvement that would benefit the nonprofit, but which we, the town, should support, would be like if we had to expand the parking lot or do infrastructure work for people who are gonna use the trails, not through the nonprofit.
Well, you always have to pay to use them.
Well, to walk, you don't.
Oh.
The bike, you should.
And ski, yeah. Right. I guess, and then there's the whole trail maintenance thing, which is expensive and the nonprofit's covering that, so. Yeah. But thank you all for indulging that conversation. I think it's an important one for us to come back to at some point.
Okay, so with all of that, are we good with what's in the ERF section? Do we want to move on to energy?
Do we want to put a bullet the way we did the other, saying we support whatever the Conservation Commission asks to be put in the ERF? I almost feel like the paragraph makes a good case, but it's exactly the case that's been made over and over and that the Conservation Commission makes. And I wonder if we should just shorten it to a bullet.
You could say something like, using what's there right now, the town should allocate routine funding as recommended by the
By the Conservation.
Conservation.
In the first sentence.
Should use time at the very beginning of the paragraph.
Yeah, right up there at the very top, the town should allocate routine funding. To the ERF as recommended by. Again, that's a question statement.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah, that's it. And you can leave the rest in there or not, I don't care.
Yeah, I like that very last sentence, so that we can add quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, on to energy.
Could you make it wider?
I will, yeah. How's that?
Yes, that's my reading ability.
Where did this one come from? The energy one?
Where did it come from?
That came from the energy committee, right?
No, this is what was written in last year's. memo.
Do we have a memo from the energy committee?
We do, well, they haven't looked at it yet, but I can share it with you. Do you want me to share it with you?
Sure.
Yeah.
What's the CIP?
Capital improvement plan.
Okay.
Okay, so. All right, so basically, I mean, this is kind of the same language that's been said every year, except it gets updated according to what's been done in the last year. So it's not terribly exciting, but,
If it doesn't change frequently, should we just say that we support the recommendations?
That's what I'm wondering, if we need
And
all that extra
See the
language.
full,
Mhm.
yeah,
yeah.
and just get rid of the last couple sentences in our memo.
So I would,
Oops. Really? No. Draft short.
I'm not sure we want to do that.
No,
That's a really long memo. I'm not saying we shouldn't say we support it, but I'm just saying, like, I think we should say we support their recommendations. And then I think we should try to prioritize, because that looked very long. I didn't read the whole thing, but. Right, I mean, I think we should give this, I think as part of our job is to take the energy committee's memo and say, okay, great, this is good. And we'll filter it down into these are the ones that we think are maybe most important.
yeah, that makes sense. Are there a couple that you want to specifically call out here, or is, because this was the language from last year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Can you open the memo again?
sure.
Is this the memo? This is from this year,
Oh, there it is, okay.
Melinda?
What's that? Yeah, this is
Is
this
this-
year's memo from the Energy Committee pending memo. Yeah, so this is kind of what's been done, the first three bullets. And then these are the recommendations about EV charging stations and workplace charging. And then vehicle fleets. They did purchase, there have been a couple of EVs purchased, and there's recommendations of the fleet electrification plan to electrify or seek an EV replacement for one of the water sewer vehicles and the library bookmobile. And there's, yeah, just yeah, parks and maintenance. And then municipal buildings. Kind of the same story that we've been saying for the last.
Well, I wonder if it's, I totally get the point that Shayla's making, and I think it's a really good one. You know. Yes, the energy committee might. Recommend all of these things, but. It does seem like it's part of our role to identify some top priorities within this memo. Particularly, again, kind of falling back on the town plan, so. I mean, you're the expert here, Melinda, what would you say? Like if, you know, if we had to identify, you know, one in each of these subheading areas,
Well, so
like, is there a sense of priority or?
the electrify the vehicle fleet is one of the top 20 actions.
Okay,
So maybe. that
so
would be a
maybe
good
we
one.
just say that, we say, here's, you know, there is this whole memo. If you wanna go look at it, but given the top 20 actions, electrifying the fleet is where we should put capital investment in FY 27. I feel like that's very clear and, you know, and it respects our identification of the top 20. But I don't wanna, you know, if you're.
Megan, that is brilliant. I agree.
I agree too.
But Melinda, if you think, no, actually, we should really be doing this other thing.
Well,
As the energy coordinator, I totally value your view on that.
yeah. I mean, I think the fleet electrification and. Realistically, we're talking about a few vehicles. We're not talking about the whole fleet.
Right.
But I think that's kind of, it seems to be sort of low hanging fruit.
As they come up for replacement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it actually is not, and you know, it's not, it ends up saving the town money in the long term.
Right.
So
It seems like a really, like, is there something other than that you would say is the absolute number one priority and should go in the capital improvement?
I would say this probably makes sense as the top priority,
Okay,
because it is. I mean, it is relatively easy as compared to some of these other things that involve. You know, I mean.
like we can't install the EV charging at the library because it's about to be completely
Well, yeah.
potentially reconfigured, right? So,
Right.
so some of these things are gonna have to wait, but.
Is it realistic that another item listed in their list here could be accomplished in this fiscal year? I mean, if that's a fairly small project,
Well,
Maybe the fluorescent lights.
it's.
What's that?
it should have been done in '87.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
As soon as
batteries,
possible.
Speaking of my battery.
I was so surprised. No, it used to be they have cost differential, but today,
Well, today it's like they're mandated, basically, they don't sell any other kind of lights, and the town still has a lot of fluorescent lighting, including in its
even
room. So it's well past the time, but there's no incentives to do it anymore. Because it's not considered a, you know, it's just considered sort of a
We'll phase
base.
them out. So for that, in order to call out that one section in the energy. In the energy block, do we wanna say like the planning commission fully supports the recommendations? Please see the full energy committee memo attached, specifically in support of. Strategy, whatever, one of the top 20 items. We wanna call out the electrification thing.
I just have to run and grab my.
Charger.
Speaking of energy.
Yeah, I like that wording. It's, you know, just fleet bleh. Not enough T, fleet electrification.
Oh, that looks so weird. Does that feel in alignment with what Megan and Shayla, what we're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I do defer to Melinda because she knows this way more intimately, but I think that. I think it's an opportunity for us to really highlight. Priorities, right? And it seems like the fleet electrification and maybe the fluorescent lighting should be. I mean, I'm not surprised that the fluorescent lighting isn't one of the top 20
not very
accent
sexy, huh?
items, right? So it's a little unfair to hold it to the same, standard. But I think, identifying those two as, top priorities, I feel like that would be very, I like it because it's very concrete and clear. It's backed up by the town plan, it's backed up by the energy committee memo.
And doable.
But it's not all like, oh, we should evaluate blah, 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 blah. Because that memo has all kinds of stuff thrown in there, which is fine for a memo. But we want the, really like,
Yeah.
the do this now kind of thing.
So where would you wanna put that?
I would say. From where the cursor is
Mm-hmm.
to the end of that, kind of get rid of all that stuff.
So all this, right?
Right,
Okay,
and then just say, the planning commission. Agrees that, or whatever, however you wanna phrase it, the top two priorities. Should be fleet electrification and. Changing fluorescent to LED lighting in town buildings.
Which seems like a small item, but I saw the total for doing it for the
yeah.
townwide was a lot.
And
Well, and again, there's another reason why we have to call it out and put it in this plan, or it just keeps getting,
Pushed out and pushed out.
yeah.
Nice. It looks great.
lighting to LEDs. Maybe that's all then, so I'll just leave it like that.
I have a comment that I think is too much in the weeds. It's always bothered me that police stay at the school in the morning all year and there's an officer in the hall and they leave the cruiser running outside. It always bothered me. Then this summer, when the work was happening on the parking lot and the police cruisers were parked in the lawn in the front, two of them were sitting there running, idling the whole time. And so I followed up a little more and apparently if they turn it off, then the computers
Yeah,
in the
that's,
vehicle have to reboot, which takes a long time, which seems like a ridiculous setup. But so I bring it up just because we burn a huge amount of fuel in the police cruisers. It's 20,000 gallons. I can't know what it is. There's a certain number of thousands of gallons per year. For our cruisers, and some of that's going into just idling.
A lot.
Especially if they're leaving every vehicle that's on duty idling the whole shift. So, one of the things they looked at was Essex was using, hybrids. I think it was Toyota, but a hybrid. And I'm guessing the hybrids, which usually start the engine when it needs the engine and run on the battery when it doesn't need, I wondered if they would solve that problem. And without going fully electric. And so I'm getting down the weeds too much, but I just wanted to highlight that issue, which is because people have to reboot their computers, if they turn their car off, they're leaving their car running for 8 hours, even if they're driving it for 2 of the 8 hours.
yeah, and that's also. The part of the reason for both the fire departments and the police department's reluctance to adopt electric vehicles because. They say that an incident could last 12 hours and they need to be able to have power in the vehicles for those 12 hours so they can run all their equipment. So I think,
But they don't have to be running. I mean, like an EV, you can just.
yeah,
Draw from the battery without actually running it. The engine isn't
For
controlled.
12 hours. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, anyway, I'm just
Yeah.
explaining.
No,
that.
I know you're just the messenger, right? I totally agree, but I also wondered if I can just leave it up to, can you, instead of retrofitting, can we say updating?
Yeah. lighting in municipal buildings.
Yeah.
Municipal building, just updating municipal building, sure.
Great. And I want to be mindful of time. Is there any final comments that we want to have on this memo? I think we've done some like really great work, and I know we got into some weeds and stuff, but I think it like everyone's like thoughts and comments led us to like a really like a good spot, and so.
What about the very bottom paragraph where I left a blank for, just talking about operating budget and, allocating money for, planning studies?
That we're in full support of the miscellaneous planning studies.
There we go.
We love miscellany.
Do some planning.
Just rather than the sausage making crew, I guess.
Those are all appropriate good uses of funding, because they save long-term money to do upfront scoping and so forth.
Do you want to recommend a specific amount of money or just leave that?
No, I think,
I wouldn't know how to.
I wouldn't know how to
I
get.
think we support staff recommendation.
Whatever you say to that.
10 million.
Yeah, we support the planning department's request for funding for laundry list.
Yeah.
Do plain old things. Got it.
Great. All right.
Thank you guys again. That was, yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good session.
Very
Thank you, everyone.
I love this advance. planning thing.
Yeah,
Yay. It's so
So
much
happy
less
about it.
stressful than that.
Yeah. Yes, thanks for getting this to us ahead of
Yeah,
time. and
really
all of
appreciate
that. It's great.
Yeah.
All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Phil and Shayla too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
See you.